the Financial Times, back when you were negotiating this, here was what was said. Some experts have argued that while Mr. Obama is making the case for a deal, there is no guarantee that his successor, assuming it is a Republican climate change skeptic, would not walk away from a Paris agreement. Mr. Kerry dismissed those concerns by arguing that the Republicans had, quote, eliminated themselves from contention in the general election, unquote, because of their approach during the campaign on issues such as climate change. Do you now regret not making this treaty ratified in the United States Senate, forcing it to be codified here?
No, I really not, because it wouldn't have happened. It's very simple. Let's be realistic about it. The president made an executive agreement because that was the best that we could do. And we presumed that common sense, that basic economics, that science would ultimately prevail. I don't think anybody could have predicted that we would have seen a story like we saw in the New York Times today about how the Republican Party has traveled lock, stock, and barrel into the hands of the Koch brothers and special interests, where they are prepared to stand up and deny science and deny facts. I mean, what does Donald Trump know that Rex Tillerson, the former CEO of ExxonMobil, doesn't know? What does he know that the CEO of Apple, of Google, of General Electric, of companies all across America who urged the president not to pull out? What does Donald Trump know that President Xi, who runs an enormous economy, or President Macron, or Chancellor Merkel, or Theresa May don't know? I mean, the fact is that his whole staff cannot tell you whether or not he believes that climate change is a hoax. And I will say to you, if you truly understand the science, if you have done your due diligence and homework, there is no way that you cannot conclude that there's an urgency to doing something, and you would not pull out of Paris.
All right, I take you at your word on that and this urgency issue. Obviously, you have a roadblock of a good chunk of Americans who do not believe this urgency, and you just laid out a case that you think they've been misled. What could
the majority of Americans support action on climate change and support staying in Paris.
I know, but as you understand, there is a political divide, and the president does feel politically secure with his base that they're comfortable with this decision. And it tells me that your message hasn't penetrated essentially red America. Why?
Well, because there's an anger and a frustration in a lot of parts of America by average folks who have felt like they're getting screwed by the government and by life over the course of the last years. And if you look at what's happened with respect to the economic crisis of 2008 and 9, and you look at our tax structure, and you look at the favors that are done for powerful interests, and you look at the average person working harder and not getting ahead, there's every reason for people to be very angry and very disposed to put first, above all, their economic situation. So I'm not surprised. There's no surprise to me that you can camouflage, as they are, in a phony economic argument that has no relationship to the reality of what's happening in the marketplace. Last year, because of Paris, more money was spent on alternative, renewable, and sustainable development research and implementation than on fossil fuels. And when Donald Trump says to the world, well, we're going to negotiate a better deal, I mean, you know, he's going to go out and find a better deal. That's like O.J. Simpson saying he's going to go out and find the real killer. Everybody knows he isn't going to do that because he doesn't believe in it. Because if he did believe in it, you wouldn't pull out of Paris. America has unilaterally ceded global leadership on this issue, which for years, even Republican presidents, George H.W. Bush, pushed in this direction.